In this lesson, we're going to go over the elements of common law burglary, which of course consists of a breaking and entry of the dwelling of another at nighttime with the intent to commit a felony therein. So in this lesson, we're going to break down each of these elements in a lot of detail. But before we get into the elements, I think from a big picture perspective, when we're organizing crimes in our head, it's important to recognize the distinction between burglary and our property offenses. In our last lesson, we covered the property offenses. Remember, larceny, embezzlement, false pretenses, larceny by trick, and robbery. And if you remember, the common thread between all of those crimes was the mental state requirement. They all required, in order for the defendant to be liable for any of those property offenses, the defendant had to have an actual intent to steal, to permanently deprive another of their property. We'll see with burglary, this is not at all a requirement, right? Stealing property might be involved, it might not be, right? It's better to think about burglary as an offense against the habitation. More so in the same category we would put arson in, right? We should have burglary and arson in a separate category from our personal property offenses. Larceny, false pretenses, embezzlement, larceny by trick, and robbery. Those we can have kind of in our theft crimes category, right? Where we actually have that intent to steal personal property. Important to recognize that this is not at all related to burglary. Of course, theft can be involved in burglary fact patterns, but it doesn't have to be, right? For example, a kind of classic example of burglary. Let's say that I am, not me, right? Let's say that we have a defendant who wants to kill his neighbor, right? Our defendant wants to kill his neighbor. So one night, in the middle of the night, he sneaks into his neighbor's front yard with a loaded gun and sees through a closed window his neighbor getting ready for bed, right? So the defendant takes the gun, points it at the window, shoots through the window, right, shattering the window, and the bullet goes through into the dwelling and hits the victim, killing the victim instantly, right? Of course, we can all recognize how that's going to end up being, right, some form of criminal homicide, right? But also, in addition to criminal homicide, at common law, under those set of facts, right, all the elements of common law burglary would also be satisfied. In other words, the defendant could be liable for both common law burglary and criminal homicide based on those facts. Right? In big picture, most people would kind of hear that fact pattern and be like, how in the world is that burglary, right? Shooting a gun through a window and killing somebody, how is that common law burglary? Right? This is why it's important, not only with burglary, but in all of our crimes, that we apply the elements of the crime to the facts very carefully, right? Because things at surface level might look like one thing, but are actually something else, right? And this is why it's really important that we apply our facts, our law, to the facts very carefully, right? But the other point in that illustration is just to recognize that burglary does not have to involve stealing property in any capacity. And sometimes we have fact patterns where stealing property is involved and it's not burglary, right? Let's say that we have a homeless person, right, that is really cold. So that homeless person breaks into a home, right, to seek shelter, to get warm. And then once they're inside the home, they see some expensive jewelry. So they decide to steal the jewelry and bolt, right? Is that common law burglary? We'll see when we run through the elements that that actually is not common law burglary, right, under those set of facts. So things that look like burglary, right, in our heads at surface level may end up not being burglary, and things that don't really sound like burglary can end up being common law burglary, right? So that's why it's really important to not make snap judgments. We just want to apply the elements of the crime to the fact pattern. Okay, but let's break these down. Remember, common law burglary consists of 5 elements: a breaking and entry of the dwelling of another at nighttime with the intent to commit a felony therein. So what is a breaking? Right? A breaking typically occurs when the defendant uses force to create or expand an opening into a dwelling. However, a breaking can occur without the use of force. Okay, so typically when we're thinking about a breaking, the defendant uses force to create or expand an opening into a dwelling. This would be like kicking down a door, right? You use force. You take a crowbar and shatter a window, or you go up to a door and you kick the door open, right? Both of those would be the defendant using force to create an opening into a dwelling. Very important to recognize, though, that the use of force is not actually required, right? You can obtain consent to enter by fraud or deceit, right? Say that you pose as a moving company and you come up to somebody's door and you say, hey, we're scheduled to move your stuff today. And they're like, oh, I didn't know, but sure, come in, right? Well, you've gained consent to enter, but you've gained consent to enter based on fraud or deceit. For burglary purposes, that can still be a breaking. Now, it is important to recognize that there has to be, when we're thinking about applying force to break into a home, right? The opening into the dwelling has to either be created or expanded by the use of force. For example, if a defendant goes up to a home and the door is slightly cracked open, right? The door is open, 5 inches or whatever, and the defendant's really thin and can shimmy through the door without that crack in the door. The defendant can turn sideways, right, and shimmy through the opening in the door without expanding the opening, right? That's not a breaking, right? The first element would not be satisfied. But if our defendant is trying to shimmy through the door sideways, right, and he touches the door and it opens an inch, well, now he has expanded the opening into the dwelling. Therefore, we have a breaking, right? So it can be very subtle, right? Any expansion or creation of an opening is a breaking. But if the defendant can get into the house without expanding the opening at all, there's a wide open window or a wide open door, and the defendant goes through without expanding that opening, then it would not be a breaking. Of course, remember, that's when we're talking about a breaking by the use of force. However, a breaking can always occur without the use of force if consent to enter is obtained by fraud or deceit. Next, we have entry, right? So we need a breaking and entry. An entry occurs when any portion of the defendant's body or an instrument used by the defendant to commit the burglary crosses into the dwelling through the opening created by the breaking without consent. Right, so important to recognize here that an entry can occur without any portion of the defendant's body actually entering the dwelling. Right, if you take a rock, or the defendant takes a rock and throws that rock through a window, right, when that window shatters, right, the window breaks and that rock crosses through that opening, that is entry, even though the defendant's body has not entered the dwelling, because an instrument used by the defendant to commit the burglary, right, that instrument was used to commit the breaking, right? Very important to recognize that if the window was open, right, and you just throw a rock through, you're not going to have a breaking, right? So to have a breaking and entry, the window would have to be closed. Defendant takes a rock, throws it through, shatters the window. When the rock crosses into the dwelling, that is the breaking and entry. Also, if any part of the defendant's body enters into the dwelling, that's also entry. So if you kick down a door and the tip of your foot crosses into the dwelling, when you're kicking that door down, right, that's a breaking and entry. Right, so any tiny amount of the body, like one fingertip enters in, or the rock that you use to create the opening crosses through, right? Any portion of the defendant's body or an instrument used to commit the burglary crosses through the opening created by the breaking. As long as there's not consent, right, that's going to be a breaking and entry, right? And this is why in our first example, right, we said, hey, look, it's possible a burglary can happen without the defendant ever entering the dwelling, right? If the defendant goes, remember in our neighbor example, the defendant wants to kill his neighbor, right? So he comes up to the front lawn and aims a gun through a closed window. When he shoots that gun at his neighbor and the bullet enters into the house, right? Well, we have a breaking and entry, right? At that point, right, the breaking has occurred by the use of force. It's created an opening into the dwelling. The entry occurred when the instrument, the bullet used by the defendant to commit the burglary, crossed into the dwelling. Right, so we'd have breaking and entry in that example, right? Going up with the gun and shooting it through a closed window. Our third element is we need a breaking and entry of the dwelling of another. Thank you so much for watching this video preview of our Legal Education Accelerator Program, or LEAP for short. If you would like to see the conclusion of this video and gain full access to our entire 1L and 2L video library, integrated outlines, streamable audio versions, additional practice exams with explanations, and much more, we invite you to head over to our website and join the thousands of law students who have already enrolled. To get started with your no-risk free trial today, simply click the link in the description box below or visit www.studicata.com/leap.
Hi everyone, my name is Serena and I'm currently a law student at South Texas College of Law, Houston.
Hi everybody, my name is Shiva and I'm currently a law student at Southwestern.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle and I am a first year student at South Texas College of Law, Houston. I used the Studicata study video series last semester to help me prepare mostly for contracts, and I actually made an A+ in contracts last semester, which I greatly dedicate to the Studicata videos.
By using Studicata to help me prepare for my final exam, I was able to score the highest grade out of my class on the final and even have my essay distributed as the model answer. Not to mention I had done quite poorly on the midterm and was struggling throughout the whole course of the semester, understanding the material and keeping up with lectures.
Because of the Studicata video lectures, I was able to go into my exams with a feeling of confidence. I didn't have to worry about what the rules of law were or how I was going to organize my answer to an essay question.
I would absolutely recommend the Studicata series and their online course materials to anyone. I think that they are not like professor lectures that you might find online or other outside study materials that you may encounter. I think that the Studicata videos really focus on not only ensuring that you understand the material that you're going to encounter on your final, but they also help you to understand kind of the best method for test taking, and they really break down how to approach each problem and the best ways to tackle certain methods on testing, and I think that's really important, and I think it's really special. I don't see that anywhere else in any of the other online resources that I've found. So I would certainly recommend Studicata to anyone who is studying in law school right now. Good luck on your studying and you're going to do great.
I would definitely recommend Studicata to anybody watching this video. Give it a chance. I'm positive that you will love it, that you will get a lot out of it, and that you will be happy that you gave it a chance. I definitely am. I know I will be using Studicata in the future.
And I cannot thank Studicata enough for getting me through my first semester of law school. I will definitely continue to watch the Studicata video lectures throughout my law school career, and I highly recommend that any future or current law student do the same.